The Jacobs Ladder Show, the international internet broadcast online interview talk radio show, exploring ladders of success with Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs. Broadcast live from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m., featuring one guest per hour. Each guest tells us their life story with a one-on-one interview with either Carolyn or Stephen Jacobs. Featured guests include singers, dancers, musicians, entertainers, and entrepreneurs on their ladders of success. Now, here's Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs.
And this is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. We're here every Tuesday from 1 to 3. One guest for 1 hour. Carolyn does one. I do the other one. We'd like to take a moment out here before we get to Carolyn's guest this week. The Jacobs Ladder Show theme music is a great jazz original composition entitled Go With It by jazz composer, arranger, and trumpeter David Perico and his Pop Evolution Orchestra. David, thank you and Pop Evolution for that wonderful music. Miss Carolyn, who have you got today?
I have been so delighted in preparing for this interview. This guy is so famous. Everybody knows him. He's the voice of entertainment. He's a singer, a comedian, celebrity impressionist, also songwriter, and really famous for being the winner of Season 2 of America's Got Talent. Welcome to our show, Terry Fator.
It's wonderful to be here. So thanks for having me.
Now, is this your real voice?
This is my real voice, yes. No voices right now.
Well, what's so unique about it is not only are you impressionist, but the fact that you do it through puppets, but you also do celebrity singing. I mean, usually puppet masters or in that vein, they're just doing comedy. I mean, you do great comedy, but you're also a fabulous, fabulous singer.
Well, thank you very much. And it's really interesting because people ask me a lot of times when I'm talking to them after the show and stuff, they'll say things like, well, I don't understand. You know, you can sing. Why do you use puppets? And really, the answer I give is because I can. You know, there's not a lot of people that can do impressions and sing like Garth Brooks and Adele and Etta James and not move their lips and make it look like a puppet's doing it. So, you know, when you have a gift and an ability that is totally unique that nobody else can do, that's exactly why you're able, you know, I'm able to get a gig at the Mirage and you know, the different stuff that I'm doing and how I won America's Got Talent. So it's really the originality, I think, that that makes it unique and different and makes people want to come and see it. So
yeah, and you do have, this is your 6th year residency at the Mirage, and we're going to go into a lot of detail, especially about your America's Got Talent winning. And I will tell you, that was one of the, I loved preparing for the show because I got to listen to all your clips again on all your audition tapes. And there was Sharon Osbourne was actually commenting. She go, do you realize how talented he is? Because he is actually singing through this part of his throat. And I go, wow, that was a great description of that.
It is. And it's fun because I haven't actually seen that stuff for years. And I met the woman who is now my wife in April of this year. She had no idea who I was. No idea. She had never heard of me. She's a caterer in Dallas, and she has one of the most successful catering businesses in the Dallas area. She does all the big, really big corporations like Lexus and not Lexus, I'm sorry, Porsche and Ferrari and stuff like that. So
she never
does
watched
their
TV?
big. No, she never. She said she was so busy that she just didn't have a chance to watch television. So. We started dating, and I said, well, let me just kind of introduce you to what I do. So I went on, just like you, I went online, and I got to show her all of those old clips, and it was really fun because I don't think I've seen them in like 5 years, and so it was really fun to go back and watch those old clips with, you know, Sharon Osbourne and David Hasselhoff and Piers Morgan.
And we got some great lines from them when we're going to share in a minute. But how we usually start, normally our show on your ladder of success is, where were you born?
I was born in Dallas, Texas in 1965. I'm 50, turned 50 this year. Don't feel 50. Hope I don't look 50. But no, you know, I feel like I earned all 50 years. I worked really, really, really hard to get where I am, and I think I was a born entertainer. My mom tells me that from the time I was about 9 months old, I was talking. So at 9 months, I was laying in. I couldn't even walk yet, and people would say something and I would imitate them. So I could say hippopotamus and helicopter at 9 months old. So apparently I was very popular at church. All the church parents wanted to come in and they would say their words, and then this little tiny baby was impersonating, and I guess I never stopped impersonating from
So
there.
you were a natural mimic.
Natural mimic, yes.
Oh my goodness. So what did your parents do?
Well, my parents were janitors. And it's absolutely hilarious because anytime I say this, my mom gets upset and she's like, "We weren't janitors." And I'm like, "No, we had a janitorial business, so we were janitors." She's just kind of embarrassed about it because I guess maybe she said people have kind of made fun of her, but I don't care. They can make fun of me for bebeing a janitor. It was a great job,
Absolutely.
paid well, and it taught me an incredible work ethic. It wasn't that I was ashamed of being a janitor. It was it was a good business, but it just wasn't what was my calling. My calling was to be an entertainer. So my parents started a steam cleaning business when I was about 7 or 8, and then they kind of branched that out into house painting, and then they turned it into a janitorial business when I was about 12. And I did that full time. I mean, we did that. We worked several hours a day cleaning buildings. Me, my brother, my sister, my parents, and then
They were real entrepreneurs.
Oh, they were, yeah. And and then we'd have to go to school and work several hours a day, and that's when I practiced. I would, be mopping or cleaning a toilet or vacuuming, and I'd be sitting there listening to the radio, and I would be singing along to the radio without moving my lips. Because I said, I want to be a famous ventriloquist one day. And this was when I was young. So.
Now, usually I ask someone, how soon was it whenever they actually knew that they could sing? But you're actually doing both at a very young age.
Very young age, yeah. It was I started singing, like I said, I was a natural mimic, so I would hear something and I would be able to imitate it from as far back as I can remember. I remember the first time I sang a song in front of an audience, I was 3, and I very vividly remember being 3 years old, standing on a table in a lunchroom at our church, and I was singing a song, and everybody was cheering and laughing and having a good time. And I remember thinking, I like this feeling. I think this is where I want to be most of the time, is in front of people.
What about your siblings? Were they musical and talented?
My brother was a guitar player, or is a guitar player, and my sister was able to sing. She was a naturally gifted piano player. There's a lot of talent in my family. My uncle is a world-class classical guitar player. In fact, he's given a lot of lessons, and when he was young, back in the early 70s, he traveled all over the world doing classical guitar. My aunt was a world-class classical pianist, and she was, again, did a lot of very amazing things and played piano. So there's my father was an amazingly gifted singer. So there was a lot of talent in the Fator family. My mom's side, not so much. There was no talent whatsoever in my mom's side of the family. But the Fator side of the family, my dad's side of the family, is just there's a ton of really gifted people there.
Now, did you do the normal things in grade school and high school, a chorus, band, anything like that, or?
Well, I kind of did.
I mean, you're performing.
We
first at 3.
worked all the time. It was interesting because we were working in the janitorial business, so I didn't have a lot of free time to do stuff like band. I was in choir when I could. I remember my parents gave me enough time to do plays when I was a teenager. So, like the Warehouse Living Arts Center in Corsicana, Texas. We moved to Corsicana when I was 14, and it was vital in my growth as an artist. There was a lot of really talented people there in Corsicana, and so I would play the roles of. I played the role of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. We took that over to London, to England, and performed.
Now, this is plays, not singing?
Plays, and well, singing
Musical?
and
Okay.
musicals. Yeah, plays and singing. I did Rolf in The Sound of Music when I was young for the Corsicana Warehouse. I played Mendel in Fiddler on the Roof, the rabbi's son. So yeah, I was very involved in that kind of stuff, and it really helped me.
Now, did you know that you were a good singer?
I didn't. I didn't know. Well, okay, let me just explain. I always impersonated. I never really had my own voice. In fact, this album, the one that you've got sitting right here, It Starts Tonight, that was one of the things that I worked with on the producer. I told him, I said, I don't have my own voice. I really don't. All I know how to do is impersonate people. So he kind of helped me find my own voice, and I think it's going to be an evolution, because I'm going to continue working on finding, and I'm doing better at it.
Oh,
But
I saw the video of your producer saying that he never thought about working with a ventriloquist. He wasn't sure how that was going to go, but then he saw your show and was so impressed he couldn't wait to get started.
Yeah, that's what he said. So, well, I had a vocal coach when I was young who was an opera coach, and he was really into opera, and he would give me these opera records, and I would take them home, and I would learn like little parts of them, and then I would come in and I would do them just like, you know, whoever it was that he was letting me listen to. He was convinced I was going to be an opera singer, but that's not really what I wanted to do. That wasn't my calling. But he thought, oh my gosh, but you know, it wasn't. I was just doing what they, you know, it's like when I played Rolf, I just listened to the Sound of Music record from the guy who played it on the movie, and I sang it exactly like he did. So everybody thought I was, you know, oh my gosh, he can, you know, he sings just like this. But it was very difficult for me to find my own voice.
Well, your voice is beautiful, and you were in a couple of bands after high school. But before we get into that, how did you get started in ventriloquism? That's not a average experience for most children.
It's not. And I think it was because I always wanted to be different and unique. You know, I wanted to do something that made me, that kind of separated me from everybody else. I was always the class clown. I was the guy that was always trying to make jokes and make everybody laugh. And, you know, my report cards, I still have them. And my report cards, they say, Terry is a very bright student, but he needs to learn not to talk out of turn. So, but I always, you know, so I started doing magic when I was 8, you know, 7 and 8. And worked on that for a while, and then but I was looking around, and when they would have like school talent shows, there was 5 magicians, you know, and then I looked into hypnosis, and I couldn't seem to hypnotize anybody. I couldn't seem to get it to work. I got one of those little hypno coins, you know, that you get in the comic magazines. Didn't work. I couldn't hypnotize anybody. So I was looking for something, and then I was in my school library when I was 10 years old, and I was supposed to be doing a book report on Valentine's Day. And I actually don't know if I ever finished that book report, because I do have, I don't know if I'm like medically ADD, but I feel like I'm ADD. It's like we're sitting here talking, and I go, ooh, look, shiny. It's very, you know, so it's very difficult for me to concentrate on anything. And so I'm flipping through the card catalog. And what's funny is now in this modern day, I don't know if I would be a ventriloquist, because we don't have card catalogs. Now you just, although I guess you could slip and you know, when you're typing, instead of saying Valentine's Day, you could put VEN, and it would bring up ventriloquism. But
just being in the V section, you saw it.
Yes, I accidentally, I guess I overshot the VA from Valentine's Day, and I landed, it said ventriloquism for fun and profit. Ooh. And I like fun and I like profit. So it looked very interesting to, you know, to my little my 10-year-old brain. So I checked the book out, and I went home and I read it, and I started. It was by Paul Winchell. You remember Paul Winchell with Jerry Mahoney? And Knucklehead Smith. He had
very famous.
So I'm reading his book, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying, "Wow, this looks really interesting. I think I could do this." And so I started practicing on it, and within just a few hours, I was able to talk without moving my lips.
Within a few hours.
Within a few hours, yeah. I was just going through, and I was saying all the little things that he was telling you to say. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll do this, and this will. There's not another ventriloquist in the school, so when we do the talent show, you know, I'll be able to be a ventriloquist. So I had been babysitting the people next door. They just lived right next door. We lived in an apartment, so I guess I was only 10. I can't imagine a 10-year-old babysitter, but I'm assuming my parents were kind of watching us, you know, making sure. But you know, it's like having a child to babysit your child. But I raised the money, and for about $10, I bought a puppet at Sears, and he was my first puppet.
I didn't know they sold them.
Well, they probably don't now, but they did back then, because you know, back then it was still kind of that age of the Paul Winchells and the Jimmy Nelsons and the Sherry Lewis, and so kids were interested in it. And so all he had was this one little string that came out of the back of his head. And his head didn't move and anything, but I started doing little routines.
What was the string for?
It was to open his mouth.
Oh, okay.
So you would pull the string, and his mouth would open and close.
Okay.
So my mom realized that I was, you know, really serious about this, that I wanted to do this. So she took him apart and put a stick on his head and then built a little body and kind of stuffed his body. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I remember I think she used like a milk carton or something to make a body, and then she stuffed it with stuffing, that you would make like stuffed animals. And then she put little arms and legs on him, and I could turn his head. And then she put a ring, one of my dad's rings, on the string. So there I was able to have him look around, and I started doing little shows for $25 at church and at birthday parties. I remember I charged $25 for a birthday party, and I would do magic, ventriloquism, and balloon animals. and I could make like 3 things. I think I could make a snake, which was the easiest. But I could make a dog, I think, and I don't remember. But I got a book on how to do balloon animals, so I would entertain these kids, and then of course I would put I would do things for the talent shows and everything. And one time I think I was 11. And I did a gong show at a bar. Why I was at a bar? I was 11, but I think we were trying to get some exposure.
Okay.
And I lost to a belly dancer. So I didn't get gonged.
Well, this is a bar, so you
yes,
gotta understand
exactly.
the audience. So.
But I was 11, so I couldn't believe I lost to a belly dancer. But now that I'm 50, I understand, because I would vote for a belly dancer over a ventriloquist too.
Exactly. This is amazing. Now, so you're practicing, and this is amazing. You have this natural mimic, and you've got your puppet, which your mom, thank goodness that she's very supportive and helped you with that. But you also start fronting for a couple of bands.
I did, yes. Well, I grew up singing, and so I would sing a lot in church, and it was before karaoke even existed.
Yes.
We didn't karaoke came along later, and the name karaoke we didn't know. But I would go down to my local Christian bookstore, and they would have background tapes of whoever the popular contemporary Christian artists were, like Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith and things like this. So I would find David Meese was another one, and I would get the background music for some of these songs, and I would sing them at church. And the interesting thing was, I would do them exactly like, so I would do a David Meese, and I would sound like David Meese. I'd do Michael W. Smith and sound like David.
What about Amy Grant?
I could sound just like Amy Grant. I did everything just like the artist, because I did not know that you weren't supposed to do that. I didn't know that you were just supposed to sing it your own way. For some reason, I would listen to it, and I would be able to sing it. In fact, I was probably 27 or 28 before, and somebody had to tell me that gift that I didn't know. I thought everybody could do it.
Wow.
It came so easily and naturally for me. And I was in a bar with a friend of mine, watching a band, which was something we loved to do. We used to love to go to clubs and just watch the bands and see other things, because we had our own band, and they were terrible. The singer was just awful. The singer was so bad. And I turned to my friend and I said, "Gosh, it's so stupid. Why don't they just sing it like the original artist?" And my guitar player looks at me and he goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, why are they trying to do this? Why don't they sing it like the original artist?" And the guy he was like, "They can't. You're the only person I've ever known that can do that." And I went, that was when I realized that I could do something different that nobody else could do. And I'm like, really? I just thought everybody could. I thought when people sang poorly, it was because they were trying to sing poorly. I thought they were trying to put like their own unique little take on the song, and then I realized, wow, that's kind of cool, But it was really funny, because even then, I didn't start focusing. I think our band would have been much more popular had I advertised the fact that I was an impressionist. But I didn't really advertise that I was an impressionist until after I saw Danny Gans.
So you're covering all these songs with fronting these 2 bands.
Oh yeah, so I was telling you about the bands. You asked me about that.
Yeah.
Can I answer about that? Okay. So when I'm like 20 years old, and this band comes and performs at the high school in Corsicana. And at the time, I was still working janitorial work. I was still doing a few little shows. I had gone to a year of college, and that didn't work out for me at all. I decided I was not meant to be educated. I ended up getting kicked out both semesters. It was a Bible college. And look, I wasn't a bad kid. I got kicked out because they would find me under the bed reading Spider-Man comics instead of being in chapel. And I mean, literally, that's the worst thing I did. I would sneak off campus and go to Hardee's and have a steak, egg, and cheese biscuit, So I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't like, it wasn't like drugs or anything like that.
Right.
It was just, I didn't like chapel, so I would hide under my bed and read comics.
Okay.
So that was my big bad thing. But so I decided I didn't want to do that. So I was working in my parents' janitorial business, but I knew I wanted to entertain. I knew that's, because I had been doing ventriloquism and so I went to this band that had come into town to do a drug and alcohol awareness program. Somebody told me, I don't even remember who told me, but somebody said that they were a really good band, and I was blown away. They were awesome. So after the show, I went and talked to them, and I said, yeah, I'm a singer. And they said, oh my gosh, we're looking for a singer. We have 8 bands that are all over the country doing these drug and alcohol awareness programs for kids. And we just lost our lead singer in Tucson, Arizona. Can you fly to Tucson tomorrow? And I'm like, sure, So I fly to Tucson the next day. They had me singing in the show within a week. I learned the show. We rehearsed every day, and I did that for a full year. I was the lead singer of this band, and then I got 3 of the guys that were in that band. And after we stopped that, because that was only working during the school years, and I called him up and I said, would you guys like to start our own band, and then we can move down to Texas and we can try. And they said sure. And then my brother was a rhythm guitar player, and he said, yeah, I'll do it too. So we started playing little bars, called ourselves Texas the Band, and we were together about 11 or 12 years, and we had a lot of fun. We were positive we were going to be the next Van Halen or the next,
yes.
but it never happened. But
are you doing any ventriloquism at this time at all?
Yes. In fact, I did it during the show that we would pull out my puppet and do a little bit with every show when I was doing the drug and alcohol awareness.
Okay.
And then with Texas the Band, I kind of made a focus of it. About every 10 to 15 minutes, we would do 3 45-minute sets or 4 45-minute sets a night at clubs. And every 15 minutes, I would pull out a puppet, and I would have the puppet sing a song. So I would have, I had this Elvis puppet that would do an Elvis song, or I would have my country puppet would come out and do Garth Brooks, or he would sing. I used to do this a duet where, you remember when Buck Owens and Dwight Yoakam did "I Came Here Looking for Something," and so Walter would sing as Dwight Yoakam, and I would sing as Buck Owens.
Oh my!
And we would do the 2 voices together, and we were actually pretty stinking successful for a local band. We were traveling all over and getting a decent amount, but we just couldn't get any national exposure. And to this day, I realized had I focused on the fact that I was doing those impressions, because we would go from, I would do Ozzy Osbourne, then I would do Randy Travis, then I would do Guns N' Roses, then I would do Garth Brooks, then I would do, and then I would do Van Halen, and then I would do Rolling Stones, and then I would do, all of these different, Travis Tritt. And so we were going from country to rock, so we were kind of Garth Brooks before Garth Brooks, except I was singing everything exactly like the original artist.
My gosh.
So it was crazy, and people really liked it. But it wasn't until I quit the band because I realized, it just wasn't going anywhere. And then some of the other guys, they wanted to go back into bars. We were playing fairs and festivals, and I love that family atmosphere. I didn't like the smoky, where you get drunk every night, and I drink very, very socially. I'll have a glass of wine with my meal, but I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that stuff.
Well, it saves your voice.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. And the other guys were like, man, we want to play bars again, and we can drink and smoke. And I'm like, well, you know what? You guys do your thing, and go to the bars, and I'll go solo and continue what I'm doing and see how that works out.
What we're going to do, because I want to get into the America's Got Talent, and we've only got a half hour left, so I know it goes by fast. So I know you traveled around and went to a lot of county fairs, a lot of personal shows, and you're perfecting your act. In fact, so much that the producers of America's Got Talent contacts you for the first season, and you say no, and which I still am amazed at that. And then you show up for the second season.
Well, the reason I said no was because I wanted to see the format of the show first.
Okay.
I thought, because so many reality shows will show people in a negative light, and I was thinking, man, the last thing I want is for them to make fun of me or make me look bad.
Yes.
So I thought, they contacted me, and they, by the way, this is a regular thing. They do this. They like look for acts. They found me on the internet. I had a terryfator.com, and
they found your buddy Michael Grimm.
They
Same
did,
way.
yeah.
Yes.
So they seek out and look for people to audition. So it's not against the rules. So people say, "Oh, that's not fair," but no, it actually is. There are no real rules for America's Got Talent. So they contacted me, and I said, I'm not interested. Let me see what the show is like. And then I watched that first season and loved it. I mean, fell in love with it.
Oh, yes.
And I'm thinking,
Great
well, this
format.
is really cool. This is they're very respectful, and I was kind of thinking it was going to be like a Gong Show, but it wasn't at all. And so the second season, I contacted them and I said, if you're interested, I'll do it. And they said, sure, come on in. So I went to L.A. I was performing at an elementary school in L.A., and they said, we're at the L.A. Convention Center, so just come on down there and get your number. So I got my number, I went solo in 2002, the beginning of 2002, and I was playing a lot of fairs, county fairs and state fairs and schools, and schools were my bread and butter because I was doing 5 days a week, 9 months a year, and I mean I was always booked. It was so busy. And
now
so,
we're up to 2007.
Yes,
for
then
America's
at
Got
2000,
Talent.
I did that for the 5 years, and then 2007, and I went in and I actually auditioned in 2006 for the 2007 season. I went in, and they told me, they said, you get 5 minutes. Don't do more than 5 minutes. They get really angry if you do more than 5 minutes. I'm like, fine, and I'm very good about my timing, and so I did almost exactly 5 minutes, and they said, do more. So I'm like, okay. So I did 5 more minutes, and they said, do more. And they keep having me do more and more. So I ended up doing like 15 or 20 minutes.
Wow.
And they went nuts. They actually told me that they didn't believe that I was doing it. They thought I had a tape recorder in the puppets. They really did. And I'm going, well, that's ridiculous. And they said, no. They said, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to actually I actually got right up to their face and went, and they kind of looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, he really is doing this.
And for our listening audience, his lips are almost together. So it's not like most singers, their mouths open like fish, and here it is, your lips are almost together.
I break all the rules of singing. And I've had several vocal coaches and vocal teachers come up to me and say, man, you have just destroyed everything I've ever told my students. But the thing is, most people shouldn't try it because there is something strange about my voice that I'm able to do that. My doctor says it's should be physically impossible. For some reason I can.
Wow.
I don't know why. I'm grateful. Thank you, God, for the gift.
Well, we're lucky for that. But you show up on the stage for the first episode of America's Got Talent. David Hasselhoff makes that very famous comment that everyone heard on the internet and live on TV. It says, oh no, not a ventriloquist.
Well, there's a backstory to that, and it's interesting, and they told me this backstory. They said, afterwards, I said, man, they look like they were really upset that I was there. And they said, well, actually, they kind of front-loaded it. They put about 3 really bad ventriloquists that day before me. And they did it on purpose because they knew I wasn't going to be bad. So apparently, I walk on with the puppet and they go, oh, not again, And so, but it was brilliant. It's brilliant for them to do that.
Great marketing.
Because they knew I wasn't a bad ventriloquist. And so I'm looking and I see them kind of rolling their eyes and I'm going, okay, this is, I knew I had them right where I wanted them because I'm like, I'm not a bad ventriloquist. They're going to like this. And so Emma started singing and boy, the rest is history. The whole crowd just jumped to their feet. Sharon and David jumped to their feet. It was a surreal moment.
Even Pierce, who's a tough nut, was so impressed with you.
Yes, Piers was my number one cheerleader in that entire season, and he's a great guy, actually.
Would this be a good time to introduce Winston?
Absolutely.
I hear that Winston is joining us here in the studio today. So for our listening audience, you're going to have to go on YouTube to find this because go to Jacob's Ladder Show. We have a page there, and you will see this YouTube with, oh my gosh, I'm this close to Winston.
How are you doing?
This is Winston, the impersonator girl.
Can I tell the story?
Well, why don't we tell it together?
Okay.
So how Winston ended up in my show, I went on America's Got Talent, and I had made it through the very first episode with Emma, and I was doing this Kermit the Frog and Louis Armstrong singing What a Wonderful World. And I had this Kermit the Frog puppet, I asked the producers, is it okay if I use this puppet on America's Got Talent? And they said, we don't mind. You just have to get permission from the Muppets. So I called the Muppets, and I said, is it okay if I do a Kermit the Frog puppet on America's Got Talent? What did they say, Winston?
They said, no.
Right. And the reason they said no, they said there's only one Kermit. We only allow one person to do Kermit. So I said, well, is it okay if I do the voice?
And they said, yes.
Okay, so I said, well, I got to find someone else who can do this. So I'm, walking around, and I go to this little pond, and
I stick my head up, and I say, can I help you, sir?
And I say, absolutely. Could you do an impression of Kermit the Frog?
And I say,
hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here. Exactly. So Winston and I got together, but he was created for America's Got Talent for the purpose of being able to do Kermit the Frog. And I just, it's funny because as soon as I opened the box and I looked at him, I said, it's Winston the Impersonating Turtle. That's the first time I knew his name.
yeah, and I am an impersonating turtle.
And you're a major part of his act at the Mirage.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think he would be successful without me.
I think that's absolutely true, Winston.
You think so?
Yeah. I think, well, we've done polls and people love Winston.
Yeah.
Now, you have some great shows coming up at the Mirage. You're having your Christmas shows, and we definitely want to mention that because
yeah.
is Winston going to be part of your Christmas show?
Oh, of course. In fact, I do a song called Will Santa Bring a Present for a Puppet Christmas Eve?
Right, because he's curious. He's a little down. He's worried that maybe Santa doesn't bring presents to puppets.
Now,
So,
did you write this song?
I did, yes.
Because I wanted to comment, 'cause we were talking about your CD. You wrote a lot of these songs, right?
I did, yes.
Did you write all of them, or you
No,
had a collaborator?
I only wrote a couple of those, and then but I do have other songs on it's on
You've got
iTunes that you can get. Yeah,
You got
I
the
wrote
Horses one.
Horses in Heaven. Yes, I wrote an entire album called Horses in Heaven and Lucky Guy that are both on iTunes. You can get those.
Wow. Well, what's so great is, so Winston, I know you sing a lot of you do a lot of impersonations of celebrities.
I do.
And I wanted to make sure, but he's also going to sing some of your originals.
Yes, well, we do several originals in the Christmas show. We wrote some Christmas songs. I wrote a song called "Christmas in Las Vegas." I'm very, very proud of it, and it's kind of a Rat Pack sound to it, but we were able to incorporate all of the kind of legendary things about Las Vegas and legendary things about Christmas and put them into one song. It's a lot of fun. And then Winston sings the song about puppets, and then Walter T. Airedale, the cowboy, sings a song called "I Think Santa Claus is a Cowboy." And because he's convinced
Yes.
that Santa is a cowboy. And then Emma Taylor does an original song where she talks about the fact that all of the ladies in her family, from her great-great-grandmother to her, have asked Santa for whoever the most popular singer is. So it starts off with Bing Crosby, and then it goes to Elvis Presley and David Cassidy. And then Emma sings all about this because she found a trunk up in her attic where she found letters to Santa from all of her the matriarchs in her family.
Oh my goodness! That is now for our listening audience around the world. The Mirage. Put that on your schedule if you're coming to Vegas. The Terry Fator Theater at the Mirage, and the show is going to be Mondays starting November 30th through Thursday, December 24th. Shows at 7:30, so it's a great time to come. And there's going to be some special Saturday shows because usually you're Monday through Thursday, but this is going to be a few Saturdays. And the other thing, and I know you go on tour. So does Winston go with you on tour around the country?
Absolutely. He goes everywhere. And in fact, next year we're looking into possibly going to Asia and also Europe. And so we're going to be taking it all over the world. And Winston will always be there because I think he's one of our number one. Yeah, well, he is my number one puppet.
Oh, no doubt about it. And you're my number one ventriloquist.
Well, thank you, Winston. That's very nice.
Oh my God! Did he say that he's the one that won America's Got Talent, though?
Well, of course I did. I won it singing, "Crying Over You."
That's right. He sang Roy Orbison.
I love it. In fact, the judges were so blown away that because not only are you a great impressionist of singing, you and Winston, but your range. Good heavens, that is a huge range. Roy Orbison sang like 4 or 5 octaves. So
I was very blessed. It's amazing when I think about it. It all came so naturally for me. But when I think of all the different things that I do on stage, I mean, I'm a puppeteer, I'm a ventriloquist, I'm a comedian, I'm a singer, I'm an impressionist. It's bizarre to think that I can do all of that at the same time. But again, God's blessed me. I'm a very firm believer in God, and I give Him the credit for it.
Well, you can always find out more about Terry Fator at his website, terryfator.com, and Fator is spelled Fator.com for those who are not aware of his very impressive background. My goodness, all your life doing all this entertainment. Now, and at the Mirage, we've got 6 years at the Mirage. Now, you have a number of puppets. I mean, when I started looking at the numbers, the press site, I love that. The press site listed all the numbers of your shows. I was going to talk more about America's Got Talent, but let's talk about your show at the Mirage. And I did hear it's a little different on the road, so if anybody can follow you on tour, go to your website, find out where you're going to be playing, which town. You just got back from, isn't it Chicago area?
I did Chicago and Indiana. And you know what's interesting is that the show, we were talking about America's Got Talent. We were talking about how I got started. The show that I do on the road is my life story. It talks about, I walk out on stage in a janitor outfit mopping the floor. Ooh. And I'm singing a song, and I start telling the audience, I act like the audience is somebody who's there watching me clean. And I go into my story about how I won America's Got Talent, how I ended up auditioning, how I started doing impressions. So it's really the entire story of how I went from being a janitor to headlining my own show in Vegas. And then I end the show by telling people, if you want to see the Vegas show, you got to come to Vegas. So it's completely different. So you can come to both of the shows, and you'll get a lot of fun. You'll get a lot of different characters. And I have created a character for every single year that I've been here at the Mirage. So it's and in fact, 2016, I've got a whole new character that's coming out in February.
Oh, that's going to be so exciting. Well, when we look at your list of songs that you sang at America's Got Talent, even though I'm reversing here, but Johnny Vegas, he sang That's Amore, Dean Martin's song. We're talking I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and you sang like, Tony Bennett, Tony Bennett. Name just went out of my mind. And Pierce was talking about the fact that you sounded, him or David Hasselhoff said you actually sounded better than he did.
It was Piers, and it was interesting because right after that came out, I used to, of course, I was 42 years old, and I'd never experienced any kind of fame at all, none whatsoever. So, of course, I was Googling myself to find out what people were saying about me and find out if people were writing articles. And somebody actually took clips of Johnny Vegas, my character Johnny Vegas, singing I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and then superimposed it would go directly from Johnny Vegas to Tony Bennett, back to Johnny Vegas, back to Tony Bennett. And I got to tell you, I could not believe how much like Tony Bennett I sounded like. I really was surprised. But this person who had done this, they posted it on YouTube, and they said this is uncanny how this guy can sound like Tony Bennett without moving his lips. And I just watched the whole thing, and I went, wow, okay, I got to admit that does sound a lot like Tony Bennett. So it's been an amazing and surreal experience. And the funny thing about it is, I get recognized everywhere I go. People stop me, they want pictures, they want autographs or whatever, but I do not wear fame on my sleeve at all. I totally forget that people might recognize me until somebody actually mentions it. It's funny because I thought before I was famous that it would be the forefront of my mind all the time, but it's not. It just, I'll just be doing my thing, completely oblivious in my own little world, and then somebody will walk up and go, "Oh, it's you, Terry Fator." And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I am Terry Fator. Yeah, that's right. Yes."
Well, Stephen and I even heard you because outside of your puppets and your show, you actually sing with your Terry Fator band, of which we've had a couple of those guys on the show. I have to thank John Wackerman, who's your band leader, who's the drummer, and we've had Jim Buck, who's a fabulous guitarist.
I'm going to try to get Bill Zappi in here.
His keyboard.
I'll see if if he's too nervous, I'll come on with him.
Oh,
I'll see if we can do it together, and that way I can help him. If he feels like he gets stuck or something, I can make him feel more comfortable. So I'll offer that to him.
But that night you were there, you were singing with Pete Mitchell, and we, again, Stephen and I we love your show. We love your show at the Mirage, but we were just blown away. You just sing so beautifully.
Thank
oh
you.
my gosh, it's so impressive.
Thank you. Oh, it's something I miss. When I was in the band, we were doing 3 or 4 45-minute sets a night, and I just got to get up and sing. I got to do Garth Brooks and Train and all these great acts, and boy, I miss it. I love what I do. But when I get on stage at the Mirage, I'll do little snippets. I'll do a verse and a chorus, or I'll do a chorus, and that way it keeps the show running, and we're able to get a lot more puppets and everything. And so I do this show at the Monte Carlo where me and Pete just sit there, my good friend Pete Mitchell. We just sit there on stools and sing for 2 hours, and it's a blast. It's not work, it's fun.
It is, and we had a number of people, our friends on Facebook, saying, I wish you had told us you were going there. We would have loved
December
to have seen it.
6th, right? Is that my next one? December 7th. December 17th, never mind.
17th.
December 17th. Okay, so it's December 17th. It's a Thursday, right? Okay.
It's
so
10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for our listening audience.
Yes, or to 12. 10 p.m. to 12.
Oh, to 12.
12 a.m.
Oh,
Yes, it's not 2. I can't go that long because I have a show that night too. So I do an hour and a half, and then I go in and do. And the stipulation is, when we talked to the Monte Carlo, it was like, look, I do have this show that I do, and I don't want to blow my voice out. So here's what we'll do. We'll do 2 hours, but it has to be on a Thursday after my last show, and I have to have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for my voice to rest, so I'm ready for Monday.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's why, we're not able to do as often. They want me every week, and I would do it every week if I could, but, I absolutely have to have those 3 days to rest my voice, but it's a blast. Yeah, and listen, if you're listening to this and you're in Vegas on December 17th, you've got to come and see it.
10 p.m.
It's
to
so much
midnight.
fun. And they got great food, too.
Yes. Oh, fabulous. It's a nice venue because it's large enough to have a great audience.
Their chicken wings are great. Their shepherd's pie is fantastic.
It is great. Now, you do women voices. Now, that's what blows me away, as well as your talents. I mean, on America's Got Talent, you sang At Last with Etta James, which, again, blew the audience away. That who is this guy, number one, is so good, and he sang a women's song. But you sing Adele. I mean, we're talking, how could you possibly do all this?
It's a blessing and a curse. And it's funny because growing up, every time I would talk to somebody on the phone, they would say, yes, ma'am. And I would say, it's not a ma'am, it's just sir, So it was something that really embarrassed me when I was young. And now I realize it's a massive blessing because I have a naturally high voice, I'm able to hit notes and really, and the funny thing is, people ask me what the hardest impressions that I do. And the hardest impressions that I do are the ones like Louis Armstrong. The first female impersonation I ever did was At Last, and I said, a friend of mine had come to my show and they had seen me doing all the impressions, and I was doing only male singers, and he gave me a female puppet, a little girl puppet. And he said, I want to see you do a female voice. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, that At Last song is really good. And I picked up the puppet and I went, At Last. It was right in my range. It was incredible. So, I mean, I was doing it within 2 hours. I was doing Etta James.
My God,
So,
having a tenor voice is like,
It is.
wow.
It is.
Wow, that is so impressive. And I tell you, your Garth Brooks Friends in Low Places is hilarious. And the Crying with Roy Orbison was great. James Taylor, You've Got a Friend. That was so neat. With Kermit
that
the
was
Frog.
surreal because I got to sing with Kermit the Frog, and I had been dreaming of that since I was about 6, and I'm serious about that. I had seen him, Kermit the Frog, with the little kids on Sesame Street. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, how do I get to Sesame Street? I want to sing a song with Kermit the Frog. I want to get on that show. And I just never knew. And then here it was, 42 before I was able to finally do it. Actually, I think I was 43. Yeah, I was 42 when I went on the show, and I had a birthday. Or I don't know, what was it? It was 2007. No, I was 42. So I turned 42 that year. So.
Now, in your show, I mean, you've had like 40 puppets, right,
Mm-hmm.
you've worked with. How many do you have in your show?
Oh, gosh, we've got 8 or 9.
Because like 55 songs, and you move
Yeah,
them around. You even have, it was funny, the Rex.
Rex the Crash Test Dummy, and that's spelled W-R-E-X. Yes.
That was funny. Oh, and you had the robot that was from
Rusty
Mirage
the Robot, yes.
to scare all the employees.
He claims he's gonna replace all the employees at the Mirage that they're going automated, but you'll have to come and see the show at the Mirage to find out how that works out for him.
Oh, it's amazing. Now, so Walter Airedale, the country western singer, was that really your first?
He was my first professional
Professional,
puppet. Now, I was 18 years old, and I got him on my 18th birthday as the birthday present from my parents. So
It was, I mean, listening to him. And then you've got, at first, your annoying neighbor, Dougie.
Yes.
And I thought, oh no, this guy is just too creepy. And, and all of a sudden, he started doing the impersonations. I go, wow, he is so cool. It was so great.
I'll tell you, have you seen my Christmas show?
No.
His Christmas bit, you guys have to come and see the Christmas show. It's his Christmas bit is my favorite part of the Christmas show. It is hysterical, and it's really, really funny. He's the best of all the Christmas show. I love the Christmas show. I love every single character, but man, what Dougie does is just, I love his Christmas bit. So
I mean, it's like he's a stoner who hangs out in bars, and here he is, all these great songs. I love it. You do such a great job.
He's his character, and I base a lot of these characters on real people. I told you that my friends who were in my band, they decided they wanted to. They wanted to go back to the bars, and they wanted to start drinking and smoking pot. And these guys were in their 40s, and I'm thinking, or in their late 30s, and I'm thinking, wow, what a dumb thing to want to do. And when you're in your 30s, that's what you do when you're 19, So I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I'm going, yeah, I think I'll create a character that's kind of like this. That's kind of like one of those guys that's just like never grows up. He's that same stoner guy you knew in high school. But yet a lot of those guys, I knew a guy in high school that used to sell pot to other kids. And man, that guy was stoned all the time. And now he's a really successful businessman, And a lot of them do. A lot of them, though, they kind of grow out of that whole thing. And Dougie is kind of the guy that decides that never grew out. He was that guy that was the same guy in high school we all knew.
And then you added a new character called Vicky the Cougar.
Yes, Vicky the Cougar. Again, based on real people. After I won America's Got Talent, I started going to Hollywood a lot more to do, I went to an after Emmy party one time, and I was going in there and meeting with a lot of television executives and stuff. And I was absolutely stunned that these characters that you see on television were actually real. People who have had, they just don't even look human anymore. And so I thought, I gotta have this cougar lady who is, who's more plastic than than real, than skin, and that's Vicky the Cougar.
Well, I do want to mention your Christmas shows again for our listening audience around the world. Please come to the Mirage, come to the Terry Fator Show. His Christmas shows are from November the 30th through December 24th. When you go to his website, terryfator.com, check on that link, and you can find out what dates would coordinate with your time that you're going to be here. The show's at 7:30, gives you plenty of time to get to the show and get to experience all of these great, great characters. Now, one thing I was going to mention here, you do an audience participation bit that is so hilarious, and I guess it depends upon who you pull out. How do you decide who to pull out? Because the ones I've seen have been fabulous.
Yeah, and 99% of the ones that I've done, and I've done thousands of shows at the Mirage, have been magnificent. And
actually,
occasionally you get that one.
You've done 1,450, I think, is the last
1,400. Okay. Well, then, yeah, but I'm including all the ones I've done on the road, too.
Well,
so,
yeah, those are all different.
Different. But so it's pretty remarkable. And when you think of all those shows, and 99% of them, I'm really good at kind of feeling that out. What I look for a couple. I look for a man and a woman that are together, and because I like to do some jokes about the wife, and then I look to make sure they're affectionate. If they don't look at each other or touch each other, I'm like, that's not. I want the ones that have their arms or they're holding hands. And then I look for the ones that are having fun, that are laughing and enjoying the show. So I'm not going to get somebody that looks like they're irritated or half asleep or anything like that. So usually I'm pretty good at it. Occasionally I'll pick the wrong person and somebody be like, no, that's my mother. And I'm like, okay, well, because it's really hard to see people from when you're on stage with those lights. You can't really see definition. You can just see kind of a little bit about, you can't really see them. And so it's tough, but it's a lot of fun. And that's one of my favorite bits to do in the show is to pull somebody out of the audience. I turn them into Lady Gaga now.
Yes, I noticed that, and I love that. And that really shows your talent, not just your singing ability, but you are a stand-up comedian because you have to go with the flow. You never know. And you had a couple who had a wedding proposal on stage, which I thought was cute. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in your show. Absolutely. And, sometimes you never know what's going to happen. Occasionally, it was
I think the last show that we did in Indiana, several things happened. I had one heckler in the audience that was yelling out. She wanted me a request. She was like, Luke
gee.
Bryan, I'm like, well, this actually is a show. It's not, I don't take requests. And so, but I just have to, you just have to be on your toes. And
Absolutely.
I'm never disrespectful, and I'm never angry or mean. I feel like that, the audience is there to have fun. And so for me,
Absolutely.
I kind of bring them in and into what's going on, and I let all of us have fun with it.
You are such a gracious human being, as well as a fabulous talent. Now, you've got shows coming up in November 13th. You were in Illinois and Indiana, but you've got, coming up is Reno.
Yeah.
November the 20th, and you're going to be at the Silver Legacy Casino, and then you're going to be back to November 21st, the day after. It's like you run from one to the next down in Indio, which is the Palm Springs area, and that's where Stephen and I met. And you're going to be at the Fantasy Springs Resort. I love that place.
It's so great. I love Fantasy Springs, and that's one of my favorite places to play. They've got a fantastic steakhouse on the top of that place, and that I'm definitely going to be eating at.
Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I've already reminded our audience about your website, terryfator.com. You're at the Mirage. You've been there 6 years, and you've got so many characters. We haven't had a chance to really talk about them. And you got your fabulous CD. What else would you like to share with our listening audience?
I just want to say thank you so much for letting me do this. I love to talk about this, and I hope it's interesting to those that are listening, and I hope it's inspiring. And if you are an entertainer, or even if you just have a hobby, I highly recommend that you try your hardest to come and see one of my road shows. And the reason I say that is because I kind of wrote it as an inspiration. My goal with my road show is, when my road show is finished, I want you to go and pick up that guitar that you haven't touched in a few years and out of the garage. I want you to start painting again or start writing again, because my story is one that is, it's remarkable. I was 42 years old. I had given up. I felt like that, my dreams of being rich and famous were over. And then everything happened. And it was because I didn't stop. I didn't give it up. I gave up the dream, but I didn't stop working toward the dream. And that's really what my advice to anybody is. You can give up the dream. It may never happen for you, but as long as you're working toward it, any kind of miracle can happen.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have won so many other awards here, and especially in Vegas, Best All-Around Performer, Best Impersonator, Best Overall Show. But I really loved the compliment you got from Simon Cowell, who is world famous for not liking people. And here he declared you to be one of the best entertainers in the world.
Yes. Surreal. Surreal.
Oh, this is great. Now, how can they buy your CDs? They can buy them on your website?
Yes, you can go to terryfator.com. They're also available on iTunes, and
Okay.
I think they're even on Amazon. You can go on Amazon, get the CD. You can get the... I also have a book called Lamu the Christmas Kitten.
That's
It's perfect
right.
coming up here at Christmas. You can order it on Amazon. You can get a hard copy. You can get the Amazon, and it's also on iBooks. And I just read it to my wife the other day, and she said it was very charming. And so it's a great way to read your kids the Christmas story in a whole new way.
Oh my gosh, this is such great fun when I think about all the things that you've accomplished and what you're sharing with the audience here in Vegas. You are such a gracious man, and I appreciate that. Plus, I love your voice. My goodness, your repertoire must be at least 2,000 to 3,000 songs.
Well, I don't know them. That's why I have my iPad and I'm reading them, because I don't have that good of a memory, but I do my best.
So I know you have a range. So of all the celebrity impersonations you do, what are your top few?
Oh, Michael Jackson's my very
Really?
favorite. Started doing him back when I was like 10 years old, when he was with Jackson 5. I could do almost all the songs from Thriller in 1983 in my college. So
great
so I
album.
love doing. He's probably my number one favorite, and then of course I love being able to do Etta James and Garth Brooks. I like doing Garth Brooks too. Styx is pretty fun too.
Oh, and that's the other thing, is that your range, when you start talking about all the people that you perform with. And now your Horses in Heaven's CD, you've got It Starts Tonight CD we've talked about your upcoming shows, and I have to tell you, we are so excited. You're such an inspiration to our audience around the world, because of the fact you overcome some great complications in life, and here you are, a success, and it's fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you, and thank Winston for me for being on the show. I know he had to leave, so
I will. I will.
This is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and we're here every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. We feature one guest per hour on the ladder of success. Stephen has 1 hour. I have the second hour, and you can always go to our jacobsladdershow.com and go down to the archives and click on former interviews, including John Wackerman and Jim Buck from the Terry Fator Band. And we'll get that Bill Zappia, your musical director, on the show sometime soon, too. Plus, go on YouTube, and on YouTube, go to Terry Fator, and you'll be a plethora of videos to choose from. Plus, this will be up soon. And this is Carolyn Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show.
Views